Hello everybody and welcome to my 40k channel. This is the second video. First one was just to announce and to say hello and to say I'm going to be doing a 40k channel. Today I'm going to be recording probably more than one video because I've realized that it takes me quite a while to set things up to do a video and to find the right time of day to do one. I'm just doing this from home. This is not a professional thing, it's more of a hobby thing. One of the things that I've discovered looking around on the internet at various 40k channels, Warhammer 40,000 is a massive game and a massive universe that's been around for a very, very long time. I've been involved in this hobby for a very, very long time, and with that comes a massive amount of different kinds of players, different kinds of content consumers, if you may. There are people in this hobby who've been involved who are only starting to play the game now. Yet they know so much about the hobby. They know so much about the lore, the factions, their preferences as to what factions they support. They might only be starting collecting their army now, but they've already been um, I wouldn't say bombarded, but lived in to the culture around 40k. There is so much content, so many memes all over the internet about it. Some people feel that it might be a wrong thing for you to only be exposed to the lore first via the memes and would like you to have a more traditional way, a traditional entry into the 40k universe. I disagree. I disagree. Most likely, on social media and on jokes as memes go, you cannot stop the humor. There's going to be something that you're going to find that's going to make a joke or a reference to something that you don't even know. And as it is with many other books, novels, series, games, etc., you're going to come across them. I didn't know what Helldivers was until I saw memes about it. And then I saw that it was a game, and then I read a little bit about the lore surrounding it. Bugs, right? Mm. Um, for Super Earth, stuff like that. Anyway, getting back to 40k, you might be exposed by the lore as a means of a joke, means of a meme, but that doesn't mean that you will get confused. You will just know that that's a joke and you'll read something more official, and something more official will give you a better idea and understanding of the lore if that is something that is interesting to you. Now, in this channel, like I do on my S&C, my S&C is at Zach Ludic on snc.com, and there I'm reviewing data sheets. So in this YouTube channel, I'd very much like to get into a similar kind of thing where we explore rules, talk about how the game is played. I do a lot of unit reviews, and in this channel, like I said in my first video, I'd like to do a series that teaches you the game. You can read all the rules yourself, and I'll get to that. There's resources online, official by Games Workshop, where it teaches you how to play the game. You're going to read it, and if you don't have a friend to show you the ropes and to play it through with you, more likely than not you will not understand how to play the game yet. The best way to learn to play the game is to play it with somebody that knows the rules and make mistakes and play again and play again and play again. But in this video, I'd like to focus on another topic, a topic that will, it's to give you an idea and a concept of what you can achieve in this hobby. And that's got to do with what sort of gamer are you? When you're new, you don't know. And when you're involved in the hobby for a week, a month, 6 months, a year, you get a better understanding. But I'd like to open it up for you, um, to open, how can we say, to give you the kind of exposure you might not get from your best friend who's roping you into this hobby. Or you might go to a hobby store and you have no friends that play this game, but that hobby store has a specific kind of niche in this hobby, and they might heavily influence what sort of hobby experience you have in 40k. I like to be a bit more agnostic. I like to be a little bit more broad-minded as to what your experience should be when it comes to Warhammer 40,000, because it is such a huge hobby with so many different facets that you can enjoy. I believe that it's a good idea to start there, expose you to the concept of how many things you could do with the hobby. Right. So first and foremost, it's a war game. It's a hobby where you have models which you build out of kits that are on a sprue. They're all come in grey plastic, although of course somebody that has a discerning eye might see that this is a metal model. We'll get to that later. But if you start now, you're going to buy from warhammer.com. This is the store. You're going to go to Warhammer 40,000. This is what I focus on. And we'll click on the Start Here button and see what they've got here. Here are resources and model kits that you can purchase. And if we go to any one of these as an example, there's a combat patrol for Dark Angels. It will show you the models that are in the box, some close-ups, and more often than not, it will show you the sprues. So that is how you purchase these models, and then you glue them together. Well, you clip them off the sprue, you glue them together, you stick them on a base, and then you've got a grey Space Marine, or Gribbly Monster, or Alien, or Chaos Demon, whatever suits your fancy. And you can then paint them up. There are many different color schemes that are the color schemes set down by the hobby that are traditional, like the Dark Angels, the Space Wolves, the Hive Fleet colors of Hive Fleet Behemoth. This is painted by my son, who's 14, but you can paint your Space Marines any color you wish and create a chapter of your making, or a Hive Fleet of your own making, and give it a name and give it a color scheme and build your army the way that you see fit. And there's a massive amount of things that you can do with that. So it's a game, it's a hobby where you build miniatures, you build armies, and then there's rules that allow you to have these units interact with one another and shoot or fight in close combat and do damage to one another, removing models. Most missions that you play are not going to be just about killing the other guy, destroying his models. In his army, you also have to complete objectives, which can vary greatly from game to game. There are main missions, primary missions, secondary missions, things that you can do. Most of the rule sets that are out there gives the underdog a slight chance of doing something to win, and those are your friendly to competitive gameplay modes of playing this game. When it comes to the competitive game, the rules get updated all the time, okay? And this is something that I want to stress. It is some gamers' main focus to be competitive in this hobby, as it is like a sport, like an e-sport or like chess, that kind of thing. Only in chess, the rules of chess don't change every few months. In Warhammer 40,000 it does. Right now, this model might be 140 points. In 2 months' time, it might be 150 points, and it's 10 points more. And the game balance is like that. When you put two forces together, you match them in points. 500 points versus 500 points, 1,000 points versus 1,000 points. 2,000 points is your standard tournament format. And if you play 1,000 points, it's like a little tournament, maybe for people who are new in the hobby, who have a small army collection and then they want to play a little tournament. The game rules, which we'll get to in another video, supports a normal match of up to 3,000 points, where you can build a detachment of models and lay them out in an army group up to 3,000 points. I feel that beyond that, rules have to be adapted in-house, house rules, to enable you to play a large-scale game. Back in the day, there used to be a game system called Apocalypse. Apocalypse allowed us, I started playing the game in 3rd edition, and 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition. Between 4th and 5th edition, the Apocalypse rules came out the first time, and it allowed you to build a massive army of uncounted, as many points as you could, or get together with 10 people and put 5 people aside and play a massive battle. We've had these events where you would get together as many players as you possibly could, and you play all day or all weekend long. And those games generally were a lot slower. Later on, Games Workshop released a Apocalypse standalone game system, which gave them the models completely new stats and changed the game rules, but allowed you to put a lot of models on the field and then like roll a few dice and then wipe entire units out, as far as I understand. I'm not too keen on it myself and some friends now that I've gotten into 10th edition, so I took a break. 6th, 7th, 8th edition. I came back in 9th edition just before the launch of 10th. So I played for about a year in 9th edition, and it was tricky. Coming back into the hobby from 5th edition, late 5th edition, I played one game of 6th, and then from there I never had a chance. 6, 7, 8, completely skipped. I hear that 7th edition was a very good edition. Not sure. 8th, I don't think so. 9th was okay as far as I can understand. But when I came back into 9th edition, the game had several new factions that was never there before. There also were a concept of secondary objectives that this army could have. You'd have your secondary objectives that everybody could choose, but you could also have secondary objectives unique to that army. Now, if I don't know what your secondary objectives are, and I don't know what my own secondary objectives are, you could be scoring victory points without knowing what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so getting back to that. You play a competitive game, you want victory points. Victory points are earned by holding objectives, scoring off your primary and secondary mission types, that kind of thing. And it could mean that the one army could be wiping out the other. Generally speaking, it allows them to score more points, but sometimes, and I've been in that position where one way or the other, either I've destroyed the enemy but they've scored more points than I have, or the other way around, they've destroyed me but I've scored more points and I'm actually winning at the end of the day. That can happen because if you play the mission and you sometimes had to throw things in as a sacrifice to prevent the enemy from scoring points, then you win. And tournament play is very much like that. It's all people who are very good at tournament play are the people who study that season's. Right now with Leviathan, we had a Leviathan kit, then we had Pariah Nexus, and now there's a new set of cards out, which then gives us new secondary mission types and slightly alters the rules. And in each one of those seasons, as I call it, there's many updates to the rules. There are errata, there are FAQs. A new army book comes out, there's wording in that codex for that army to describe how their rules work, and a week after the release there will be an errata to modify what was printed and what was written. So right now when it comes to Warhammer 40,000, it's best that you get the Warhammer 40,000 app, which you can load from the App Store or the Apple Store. It doesn't really matter. They're compatible for both, and that all the core rules are in there, and any changes, any errata are automatically updated into that. When you start looking for resources online, you go to warhammer-community.com. Warhammer Community, that's what we call it. There is a download section, which you can go to Warhammer 40,000, and you can download various resources. This will include things like the core rules, your codex FAQ errata, and then anything that's balancing related that way. On there, this is what I wanted to show right now, is that there's a quick start guide, though I don't recommend you start there if you're going to learn things. The quick start guide is more like, once you've gone and learned the rules, you keep these 3 pages with you to remind you on how the basics work. And now, not in this video, in my very next video, which I'll probably record straight away, publish it a little bit later, we will look at the core rules. So this PDF you can download straight away from Warhammer Community, from the Games Workshop site. There's the core rules, which gives you that PDF, which if you started with 10th edition and you got yourself a launch box of Leviathan like I did, I've got a box, and obviously that's where my son's miniatures come from as well, because he wanted Tyranids. I thought that was a brilliant deal. Get back into 40k, get the 10th edition rulebook, get a couple extra models, and my son gets his start of his army. And if we look in this wonderful book, that black page is there. The very next page is an artwork with the Emperor of Mankind, and there's the introduction. Literally page for page, exactly the same. So 10th edition, why are all these rules up for free? They weren't before. 9th edition certainly wasn't available for me to download. It's something that I needed to get from other people, and borrow their rules and things like that. And 10th edition is the way that it is because when they launched 10th edition, they revised all data sheets in the entire game. That's why I started doing the reviews, because the reviews were there to create sort of like a review for myself, a review for the viewers, a review for my friends who read my blog, to go over how does the data sheet work, how does that data sheet work, what is its abilities, what is its rules. And then when an index, which is how 10th edition launched with all the armies getting an index with one detachment, then the Tyranids would get a codex, and then they'd get 5 or 6 detachments, and the data sheets would slightly alter to work together with the updated army rules and the updated detachments, and so it carried on. Now the exciting thing about 40k is that it didn't stop there. There are rules, especially here with our Warhammer community, where on Christmas 2024 they did Grotmus detachments, and every single army got themselves an additional detachment. So even if they were still an index and they didn't have, like my Space Wolves now just recently got a new codex where we get 3 detachments, but in the index everybody at the start of 10th edition had 1 detachment, and as codexes came by, like Tyranids and Space Marines were very early, they would get their additional detachments. At Christmas, the Tyranids got another one. The Space Wolves specifically had theirs from the index as well as an extra one, but they also have access to all the Space Marine ones, which also got an additional one. And everybody else. But that's not even all, because besides the Grotmus detachments, you can go looking for other rules, and then you will find the Tyranids Mediterranean Assault, which is another detachment. The Dark Angels Wrath of the Rock. The Chaos Space Marines Cabal of Chaos. These are, or you'll have something like the Raveners or the Adeptus Sororitas Sanctifiers. Those last two are individual units that have been added to the army after the Codex came out. And why is because there's a subset game to 40k called Kill Team, where you put small elite units into an urban skirmish, like special ops, trying to accomplish specific goals, and you only use between 4 and 14 models as far as I understand. I don't play it, but the cool thing about that game is that they've created data sheets to use those units. You can buy them, play Kill Team, and then use that same model kit and put that squad into your army for 40k. So there's a lot of replayability when it comes to models, which, let's go back, brings me back to my point here. The joy of playing Warhammer 40,000 is because you can collect an army and you can keep those models for decades, and they're still relevant. They're still useful. So when you start getting into the army, into the game, and you go look, then you go, oh, a combat patrol of Dark Angels. Oh, it's $168. That's really expensive for a hobby. Is it? Do you know how many times you can play a game with that $168 worth of miniatures? It's not going to be the only things that you're going to buy to be able to play this game, but it's a hell of a good start. It gives you intercessors, it gives you hellblasters there, it gives you Vanguard veterans. Those are not Vanguard, those are Blade Guard veterans, and it gives you a captain and Gravis armor. Great, it's a good start. It gives you some units to play with, and you can use those miniatures over and over and over again. You're going to need to get yourself some other tools, a tape measure, some dice, there's some other range rulers, maybe you want to get yourself a laser light, helps you with line of sight, all kinds of things like that, some tokens and things, and of course your rule books. All of these things cost a bit of money, but if I have to look at how many miniatures I've got that are 20 years old and older, and I still get to use them in the hobby, then I must say that there's a lot of value for money there. Additionally, like I said, there's many different kinds of content consumers. If you've been immersed in the lore of 40k and you've only started playing the game now, and now you're going to start watching my videos to figure out, how do I play this game, Zach? Cool, I'll run you through it. We'll play some games together. It's best to learn from somebody and play an actual game. This is like the next best thing. I'm going to be running through the things and we'll simulate together the scenarios that you need to learn to play the game. But when you have been immersed in the lore, you're already a content consumer of Warhammer 40,000. So you are interested in the lore. There's lore online. There's lore in the rule books. There's a whole section that is just dedicated to the world and universe and factions of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. There are over 600 books published by Black Library. Let me grab one. Novels. This being one of the Ragnar Blackmane novels. 600 novels. Okay, maybe not all 40k because this is Black Library, so they also do your Warhammer Old World and now Age of Sigmar and whatever other spin-offs there are. But that's one level. And when you build an army, you can create character in there, and the lore balances with the appearance. these units have got character. My son chose High Fleet Behemoth because he read through the lore of the different High Fleets, and he decided, based on their appearance, because they look cool, and the lore surrounding this High Fleet, that he would paint his collection as High Fleet Behemoth. I liked Space Wolves. They are Vikings, they are werewolves, they have some werewolves amongst them. They are the Emperor's executioners. There's so much about them that is amazing. That's my first and main army. I collect all Imperial armies. I don't have everything, but I do have a lot of them. I like playing the game. I like painting the models. When it comes to playing the game, there are many different ways of playing it. So, as I said, exposure. Play the game, play a tournament, play competitively. Try become really good at playing the game in the current meta, in the current rule set, and you find yourself at a tournament competing for first place. Maybe you're good at it. Maybe you're good at learning these rules, and when the rules change, you'll go and revise and rerun it. Like I said, the best tournament players, they build their army for that current rule set so that they can beat the missions and secondary missions every single time against any opponent. They balance their army composition so that they can face off against any number of different opponents, because there's so many different factions in the game, and there's so many different ways to play each one of those factions. So to win at a tournament, the point that I want to make is that it is exciting and it is worthy. It is a worthwhile pursuit. It's a thrill of battle to be chucked into a tournament and they randomize that first draw, and then you win that round and go against somebody else who's won a round, or you've lost a round and go up against somebody else who's lost a round, and then you'll go up and down in the tournament based upon your performance, and you'll randomly come up against a variety of different enemies. My point is that for the new player, it's impossible for you to know what you're going to go up against. You need to learn your rules, and hopefully you know them well enough to play them well. Knowing every army's rules, well, that's a challenge. There are still armies in the game that I have either not played against or seen very little of, and therefore I can read their rules on paper, but I have not gotten the feel of how they play. And if I should go where the other day I played in a small tournament and I won three rounds out of 3 and made the most victory points in my 3 rounds, and therefore I placed first in that tournament, even though I could do that, and I could still come up against an army or a player that is playing something that I don't recognize, and I might not know how to deal with it. People who play in tournaments, they learn everything, they want to know everything, and they want to play competitively to win. It is not the only way to play the game. Some friends and I, we've played the game for a very long time, so we have large collections. Like I mentioned to you, the game is kind of built around 3,000 points. 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000 point attachments. I created a modification to the rules that allows us to play multiple detachments. So my belief is that most of the rules are written for a detachment of up to 3,000 points. If you want to not break the rules of detachments and the rules of a force, you need to build 2 detachments and then add them together on the board under that they're all friendly to one another, or they're the same army maybe. Like if I had to play 6,000 points of Space Wolves on the board, I would split them into 2 3,000 point groups, which might even allow me to field certain particular units in the one army as, say, an Ironstorm Spearhead, while running this over here as the Saga of the Bold, and then I'd need to keep track of which army is which army. Another way of playing the game is to go for something more narrative. There is all this lore, thousands of pages of lore, and you can still create your own scenarios. The universe is built that way so that you can create narrative campaigns. And in fact, in the Leviathan rule set and on your core rulebook, you will find, if I can go there now, you will find rules for playing something called a crusade. There are crusade rules. There it is. And what a crusade is it allows you to string together a bunch of battles and have special data sheets where your units that survive the battles will level up and get better, and you can do some requisitions where you either level up your units or you will rearm, resupply. So the guys that have died, you build them up again, and you slowly but surely build your army. Your different teams can have either squads or units will get battle ranks and then get them some additional skills. I haven't played Crusade. I'd very much like to. Hopefully I can join a group of people who will stick with it and play a season of Crusades. And this is the point that I wanted to make. So we'll cut this video down up to this as a conclusion. You might find yourself in a hobby store or a hobby group, or your best friend who's getting you into the hobby, and they might be very focused on tournament play. It's not the only way to enjoy the game. It's not the only way to enjoy the hobby. Some people, and I know people personally, that purchase the models to build and paint them. They don't build armies, they buy miniatures that are interesting. So they generally end up with a collection of all the big heroes and big monsters and things like that. And sometimes those guys will then eventually get around to building an army based around one of the heroes that they like the most. Then there's the tournament play, there's narrative play. It doesn't need to be a crusade, it could also just be a narrative campaign of your own devising. One way or another, the important thing for you to remember is that you're going to play the game, learn the rules, and find your own path. If you are playing in your hobby group and they might have a group that does crusade, or they might have a group that's very focused on tournaments, or they might have a group that's very focused on painting, you should join them. You should go and at least once go out and try and see what it's all about. Go and experience that other kind of way of playing the game or enjoying the hobby, so that you can see if it's for you. Try it more than once if you need some time to make up your mind, and you might find that you enjoy something. You might find that you enjoy different things to your best friend who got you into the hobby, or you might figure out that you enjoy other aspects of the hobby that are not a focus of that hobby shop. That is okay. You will find other people that are like-minded like you. So at our hobby club, hobby store that we go to, it's the Sword and Board Hobby Shop here in Cape Town. It's close to Montague Gardens, and there's quite a lot of people that are very focused on playing the competitive game. They also have a group called the Dead Painters Society, which is where they just get together to paint. There are people there that are hobbyists that just paint. They don't play the game. They paint models, and they're very good at it. Much better than anything you'll see that I do. I've learned some tricks and some skills and some shadings and some hues and some things, and highlighting and so forth, and dry brushing and all kinds of things. But there are people that just take it to the next level. at that hobby store. There's Kill Team, there's my group, we call it Eternal Carnage, where we play, the other day we played a 9,000 versus 9,000 points of Imperials versus Necrons. A lot of fun, a lot of fun, and many more different kinds of ways that they enjoy the game there at that hobby store. They also support a lot of other game systems. When our Warhammer guys are getting together there are also people playing Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and other board games. Um, Sometimes Games Workshop and sometimes not Games Workshop. But anyway, point is, welcome to the hobby. It's a very big universe and there's a lot to enjoy, and I hope that you like and subscribe and follow me for more. I'm going to dive in head first into some core concepts in the next video.